My name's Lena Hayes, 27, living in Austin, Texas. I juggle two jobs, bookkeeping by day, tutoring algebra by night, just to stay above water. In my family, I've always been the quiet one. Not the favorite, not the pretty one. That title has always belonged to my younger sister, Savannah. Savannah, the golden child with the perfect smile, and the world that always bent in her favor. While she planned her fairy tale wedding, I was quietly draining my savings to pay for it. She never asked, never thanked me, never even thought to. Most days, I told myself I didn't mind, until the day she slapped me across the face, in front of everyone. That was the moment something inside me broke, and her perfect little fairy tale began to fall apart. Have you ever given everything, your time, your money, your heart, only to be met with entitlement or cruelty? If that struck a nerve, maybe your story could help someone draw their line sooner. The boutique smelled like roses and money, marble floors, gold-framed mirrors, a chandelier the size of a small car. Savannah stood on the raised platform, twirling in a $20,000 gown that shimmered like it had stolen the light itself. Everyone clapped. Mom dabbed her eyes. Our cousins filmed it all, cooing like she was royalty. And me, I sat quietly in the corner, holding Savannah's purse, her phone, and her half-melted iced coffee. Invisible, just how she liked me. Lena, she snapped, without even looking my way. The veil. Now. I got up, careful not to touch anything I couldn't afford, and pulled the one she'd pointed to earlier, lace-trimmed, cathedral length, delicate as cobwebs. I carried it over like it was spun glass. She snatched it from my hands, her eyes narrowing. Wrong one, she hissed. No, it's... The slap came before the words could. A sharp, ringing crack that froze the whole room. My cheek burned. My ears buzzed. And worst of all, no one moved. Not even Mom. Leave, Savannah said through her teeth. You're ruining my moment. So I did. I turned and walked out, cheeks blazing, throat tight. My heels struck the marble like gunfire. Outside, the Texas heat hit me, but I barely felt it. I was shaking, not from the slap, but from the truth no one else knew. That credit card Savannah had been flaunting, the one she thought Mom and Dad gave her, it was mine. Every swipe, every deposit, it all came from me. The gown, the venue, the catering, the engagement party. Her dream was built on my exhaustion. And in that moment, I was done. I pulled out my phone, opened my banking app, and stared at the dwindling balance, tens of thousands gone. All for a sister who just humiliated me. One tap. Cancel card. Confirm. Just like that, the floor beneath Savannah's perfect world disappeared. I leaned against the boutique window and waited, not out of revenge, but to see how fast her kingdom would crumble. A minute later, her voice carried through the glass, sharp, panicked. Run it again. There's money on that card. The saleswoman murmured something. Then again. Declined. Savannah's voice cracked as she argued with the boutique manager. I just need to call my parents. I'm sorry, miss, the manager interrupted gently. If you can't make the payment, there's nothing more I can do. That was my cue. I didn't wait to see the rest. I turned and walked out, her raised voice chasing me into the street. I wasn't just leaving a store. I was walking away from years of being their doormat. I wandered down South Congress, the sting of her slap still burning across my cheek. Savannah's voice echoed in my head, sharp and shrill like static I couldn't turn off. Around me, tourists laughed, clutching shopping bags and iced coffees. My phone buzzed endlessly in my purse, but I didn't need to check. I already knew who it was. At Joe's Coffee, I ordered a black iced coffee and sat on the patio. I didn't drink it. I just watched people pass by, the world somehow still spinning like nothing had just imploded. Then my phone lit up. Transaction declined. $18. $260. Bridal Atelier of Austin. A small, bitter smile tugged at my lips. So she'd really tried to buy the dress. Thought she'd glide out of there like a glittering queen. Another ping. Transaction declined. $1,200. Accessories counter. I could picture her face, red, furious, humiliated. throwing the card down, insisting there had to be money, that her parents would fix this, that the boutique would regret embarrassing her. What no one knew was that it wasn't their card. It was mine, and I was done. The phone rang again. Mom. I let it go to voicemail. Then again. Then Savannah. Then Mom again. Fourth time's the charm. I answered, silent. Her voice hit me like a bullet. Lena, what the hell is going on? Your sister's card just got declined for her dress. Do you know how humiliating that was for us? I canceled the card, I said simply. A pause. What do you mean you canceled it? I mean I canceled it. The card Savannah's been using, that was mine. I've been paying for everything. The dress, the engagement party, the photographer, all of it. Silence. Then her tone sharpened. You selfish little. I cut her off, my voice cool and flat. Selfish is making someone else pay for your daughter's fairy tale and pretending it's their duty. You're ruining her wedding. Mom shrieked. She did that herself, I said quietly, the moment she slapped me in public like trash. And then Savannah's voice burst through the line. Hi. Hysterical, venomous. You're just jealous. You've always been jealous. You're trying to ruin my wedding because no one would ever marry you. I almost laughed. Almost. No, Savannah, I said. I'm not jealous. I'm just not your bank anymore. You want a wedding? Pay for it. Click. For the first time in weeks, my hand wasn't shaking. The next morning, as I brushed my teeth, a text flashed across the screen. Final notice, venue payment overdue. Reservation will be canceled in 48 hours. I didn't reply. That email used to come to me. Now it went to her. By noon, the phone rang again. Savannah. This time, her voice was different. Not rage. Panic. The venue says the check bounced. Lena, what did you do? I took a slow sip of coffee. Nothing. I just stopped doing everything. You can't do this, she screamed. The wedding's in 2 weeks. The flowers, the food, the photographer. That's your problem now, I said and hung up. Outside, a squirrel darted along the fence without a care in the world. I couldn't remember the last time I felt like that. By evening, the family group chat was chaos. Aunt Cheryl wanted to know if she should still fly in from Denver. Cousin Nick said the caterer canceled. The whispers had begun. Then a text from Tyler. Heard she's spiraling. You okay? Better than okay, I wrote back. I'm finally breathing. Because they thought they'd lost a dress. But they were about to lose an entire wedding. By the third day, the cracks in Savannah's perfect day weren't cracks anymore. They were fractures, ugly, public, and impossible to hide. The venue sent another notice, this one in bold red letters. Final warning. The florist canceled outright after the bounce check. The bakery stopped answering calls. Everything she built on my card was collapsing, and I didn't have to lift a finger. From my small apartment, the one no one knew about, not even my parents, I watched it all unfold. Here, there was peace. Here, there was quiet. And for once, I didn't feel guilty for either. That night, Tyler showed up with Thai takeout and a smirk. She texted me, he said between bites. Savannah. He nodded. From some random number. Begged me to talk to you. She's desperate. She's panicking, I said. It's not just her, he added. The whole family's talking. You should see the Facebook group chat. Half of them are canceling their flights. No one knows what's going on. I leaned back on the couch, exhaling. Good. Let them wonder. Tyler studied me for a moment, then smiled. You know, I've never seen you this calm. It's kind of badass. Later that night, my phone buzzed again. Brandon. Hey, I need to ask you something. Please be honest. Were you the one paying for everything? Savannah told me her parents were covering it all. That money wasn't an issue. I stared at the message for a long time. I could have explained, sent receipts, shown every bank transfer, but I didn't need to. I typed one word, yes. No explanation, no apology. A minute later, his reply came through. Thank you. The next morning, Tyler and I sat outside a cafe, the sun warm on my shoulders as joggers passed with dogs and yoga mats. You think he'll call off the wedding? He asked. If he's smart, yeah, I said. But it's not my problem anymore. He tilted his head. You'd be okay if he didn't? I thought for a moment. I wouldn't care. But I think he'd be making the biggest mistake of his life. That afternoon, an unknown number popped up again. Something in me knew who it was. Lena. Brandon's voice was calm. Too calm. I just want to hear it from you. You paid for the venue, the catering, the engagement party? Yes, I said. Every last detail. Savannah didn't pay a dime. Neither did my parents. They all just assumed I'd keep covering it. A long pause, then a quiet sigh. The kind that comes when the truth finally settles in and everything makes sense. She told me everything was taken care of. She told my parents the bills were covered. Last night, I stood in front of my family defending her, believing every word she'd said. Now, I just feel like an idiot. I'm sorry you had to find out this way, I said quietly. He laughed, a sharp, humorless sound. I trusted her. I was going to marry her. There was a pause, then shuffling on the other end of the line. A muffled voice. A scuffle. Then Savannah's voice exploded through the phone, raw and furious. Lena, shut your damn mouth. You've ruined everything. Brandon's tone cut through her shouting, firm and controlled. Savannah, enough. He didn't have to yell. His calmness hit harder than a scream. I saw the receipts, he said coldly. The emails. You lied, to me, to my family, to everyone. Savannah's words came out between sobs, desperate and panicked. I was going to pay her back. You don't understand. She's twisting it, making it sound worse. What I understand, Brandon said, his voice like ice, is that we were about to build a marriage on a lie. The line went dead. I just stared at the phone, heartbeat steady. I hadn't yelled, hadn't argued. I'd simply told the truth. And it was enough to burn the whole illusion down. She built her dream wedding on my silence. Now I was done being quiet. The wedding day came. Austin felt strange that morning, gray skies, thick air, the kind of stillness that comes before a storm. I wasn't planning to go, but Tyler looked me straight in the eye and said, go. Not for her, for you. So I did. I wore a simple black dress, nothing loud, nothing flashy. I wasn't there to cause drama. I was there to end it. The reception hall sat beside Lady Bird Lake, meant to look luxurious, exclusive. But today it looked hollow. No flowers, no music, no food, just rows of bare tables and confused guests whispering in circles, checking their phones, waiting for a direction that never came. I slipped inside quietly. At first, no one noticed me. Then Aunt Cheryl did. Her eyes went wide. Lena, oh honey, what's going on? Before I could answer, I saw her, Savannah. She was in the corner, clutching her phone like a weapon. The gown wasn't the $18,000 crystal-studded one she bragged about. It was a plain rental, wrinkled and dull. Her perfect curls were ruined by humidity. Her makeup streaked down her face. She looked less like a bride and more like someone trapped in a collapsing dream. When her eyes found mine, everything stopped. Her expression twisted into pure hatred. You, she hissed. You ruined everything. Every head turned toward me. But this time I didn't shrink. I took a step forward, steady and sure. No, Savannah, I said, voice clear. You ruined everything the moment you decided I didn't matter. The moment you slapped me. The moment you built a fantasy on my money and never said, thank you. A murmur rippled through the crowd. I kept going. For those of you who don't know, I said, facing the guests, Savannah told everyone our parents were paying for this wedding. The dress, the venue, the catering, all of it. I paused. They didn't. I did. The room fell silent. Even my mother looked frozen. She's lying. Savannah snapped. She's making this up. I didn't flinch. I pulled my phone from my clutch, opened my banking app, and held it up. Here are the payments. Line after line. You can check them yourself. Numbers don't lie. Then the doors opened. Brandon walked in, not in a tux, but in a black suit. His face unreadable. Behind him, his parents followed, somber, silent. Savannah's voice cracked. Brandon, I can explain. He lifted a hand. Don't. He turned to the guests. I came to tell everyone myself, he said evenly. The wedding is off. Savannah lied, to me, to all of you. I won't start a marriage built on deceit. Savannah's knees buckled. She dropped into a chair, gasping for breath as whispers spread through the room. Some guests shook their heads. Others quietly left. The fairy tale didn't end. It collapsed in flames, right there in front of everyone. The aftermath came fast. By the end of the week, the story was everywhere. Austin's a big city, sure, but not big enough to keep a scandal quiet. People talked. Over coffee. In church. On social media. The canceled wedding. The groom who walked away. The sister who told the truth. Savannah vanished. Not literally, but she stopped posting, stopped showing her face anywhere. Aunt Cheryl said she hadn't left the house in days. Every trip to the grocery store was a battlefield of fake smiles and whispered pity. And my parents? Reality caught up with them, too. The bills they used to slide toward me will pay you back soon. Can you just cover this month? Now sat piled on their own counter. Mortgage, utilities, credit cards. They called a few times. Mom cried in one voicemail. Dad yelled in another. The last one was quiet, tired, but still carried that same familiar tone, expecting me to fix what they broke. Like I owed them something. I didn't answer any of their calls. The guilt used to come instantly. That sinking feeling that I was disappointing someone, that I was supposed to fix things I didn't even break. But now, I just let the phone buzz until it stopped. Silence had become my new kind of peace. Tyler started coming by more often. Not out of pity, he wasn't the type, but because he understood what I just climbed out of. The kind of exhaustion that doesn't come from work, but from constantly explaining yourself to people who don't want to listen. Sometimes he brought groceries, sometimes takeout, sometimes just his presence. We'd sit on the couch without words, letting quiet settle between us like a soft blanket. One evening, I stood barefoot in my tiny kitchen, wearing an oversized t-shirt and stirring a pot of pasta while the faint sound of rain tapped the window. The soft orange glow from the stove painted everything warm. Tyler leaned against the counter, sipping his beer and watching me. "Does it feel real yet?" he asked. I smiled faintly, stirring the sauce. The peace or the emptiness? He tilted his head. "Is there a difference?" I thought about it for a long moment. "There used to be," I said quietly, turning off the stove. Steam curled into the air, carrying with it the scent of garlic and something fragile, something like relief. For years, I thought saying no made me cold. I thought drawing a line meant I was selfish, ungrateful, unloving. I believed that if I didn't keep everyone else comfortable, I was the problem. I used to mistake exhaustion for love, sacrifice for loyalty. But standing there in that small kitchen filled with warmth and steam, I finally saw it clearly. Letting people bleed you dry isn't love. It's survival for them and a slow death for you. Tyler didn't say anything. He didn't need to. His silence said he understood. The next morning, my phone buzzed again, my mother. Her text glared up at me. "Your father just got a notice from the credit union. His credit score dropped 90 points. Are you happy now?" I stared at the message until the words blurred. I didn't reply. I didn't owe her my explanation anymore. I simply deleted it, and with that small act, I deleted years of being guilt-tripped into obedience. Later that week, a certified letter arrived in the mail. My name printed neatly on the envelope. Inside, an overdue invoice from the wedding venue. My hands didn't shake when I called the number. My voice didn't tremble. "No," I said calmly. "I won't be responsible for that payment. The bride and her parents can be reached at this number." Click. No panic. No guilt. No rescue. That day, something in me settled. For the first time in years, I kept my paycheck. It didn't vanish into someone else's crisis the second it hit my account. I opened a small savings account, just mine, and signed up for a cooking class on Tuesday nights. I started buying groceries that didn't come from the clearance shelf, replaced my mismatched dishes with new ones that actually matched, and lit a candle every night before bed just because I wanted to. Freedom, I realized, doesn't look like fireworks or grand gestures. It looks like standing in your own quiet kitchen, cooking for yourself, knowing every cent you spent was finally your own. Savannah never reached out. Not a call, not a message. I heard from a cousin that she'd tried contacting Brandon, but he was already dating someone new. Her perfect little fairy tale had fallen apart, and like all her messes, someone else would eventually clean it up. Only this time it wouldn't be me. My father stayed silent. My mother tried one last time, a Thanksgiving invitation. I declined politely. "You're being cruel," she texted back. "No," I thought, staring at the message. "I'm just not available for your chaos anymore." And for the first time, their silence didn't sting. It didn't mean rejection. It meant consequence. Weeks passed. Austin began to cool down. The air grew lighter, softer, scented faintly with cedar and the first signs of fall. Leaves along the riverwalk turned shades of amber and rust. The city slowed, and so did I. One afternoon, I ran into Aunt May at the grocery store, in the produce aisle between grapes and avocados. She smiled softly, as if she'd been waiting for this moment. "Lena," she said gently, placing her hand over mine, "I just want you to know, some of us saw what was happening. We just didn't have the courage to say anything." I blinked, caught off guard. "Really?" She nodded. "What you did, setting boundaries like that, it takes strength. Real strength. I'm proud of you." Her words lingered long after I walked out of that store. Not because they healed me, but because they were the first words from my family that didn't carry guilt like a hidden barb. Savannah's social media went dark. My parents stopped calling. The last voicemail came 2 weeks later. My mother's voice flat and tired. "Hope you're happy now." Then silence. And I was. Not the loud, shining kind of happy, not the kind you post about. This happiness was quiet, grounded, steady. The kind that lived in my bones. I'd moved through everything. The anger, the disbelief, the grief. What was left was something clean, relief. No, the story didn't end with a reconciliation scene or a tearful apology. They didn't change, but I did. I woke up every morning without dread pressing on my chest. My paycheck stayed mine. I went to cooking class every Tuesday, made awful risotto with strangers who eventually became friends, and laughed without guilt for the first time in years. I bought new bed sheets, crisp white, and slept through the night without waking up anxious. One night, I stood by the window of my apartment, watching the city lights shimmer below. Tyler was on the couch, flipping through channels while the smell of roasted garlic filled the room. "You okay?" he asked, glancing up. I nodded. "I'm more than okay. I'm free." He smiled faintly. "Took long enough." We clinked glasses over mismatched pasta bowls. The sound was small, but it felt like a celebration. Freedom didn't arrive with applause. It came quietly, like an exhale I'd been holding for years. It came in the silence that no longer felt like punishment. It came with a bank account that didn't bleed, a phone that didn't ring with demands, a heart that didn't ache with guilt. I used to think peace meant keeping everyone happy, keeping the family together, being the good one. But I learned that peace bought through silence isn't peace at all. It's control dressed up as love. Real respect begins the moment you stop letting people destroy you and call it care. And sometimes the strongest thing you can do isn't fight, or scream, or explain. Sometimes the strongest thing you can do is simply walk away. Let them sit in the ruins of what they built. Let them miss you in the silence they once used as a weapon. And let yourself finally live. Because I didn't just cancel a credit card that day in the boutique. I canceled a version of myself that thought love meant shrinking, pleasing, saving, and suffering quietly. And I'll never be her again.